Lieutenant Kennedy with the Wichita Fire Department. I'm stationed over at Fire Station 22 at Danker and Hydraulic. Appreciate you letting us come out and chat a little bit this morning. Basically, what we typically try to do is try to give you some tips on fire prevention in your home and those types of things. Obviously, we're predicted to have somewhat of a severe storm this evening. So hopefully you have all your shovels ready and salt and sand, that type of stuff to prevent slips and falls. We make a lot of those whenever the weather turns bad, and inevitably it's broken hips, legs, arms, wrists, those types of things. So, and everyone wants to make cracks their head open too. So please be careful this evening. Hopefully you'll be in for the evening by the time all this bad weather starts coming. Some of the things that I like to stress whenever I do these meetings is the emphasis on making sure that your smoke detectors are working properly, that you have fresh batteries in them, and that the smoke detector is up to date. This coming, I think it's next Sunday, we go into, what is it, daylight savings?
Yeah.
Daylight savings time. So we always recommend that's a good time to check your batteries and all your smoke detectors. Also, if you have carbon monoxide detectors, it's a good time to check those as well, and just make sure they're operating correctly. Typically, smoke detectors, they have a lifespan that you can find on the back of the smoke detector. Most smoke detectors last between 7 and 10 years. So if you make a habit of checking that, then you can figure out when would be a good time to get an upgrade on your smoke detector. Obviously, they have some that are battery operated, some that you plug in. Whatever you're comfortable with, just make sure that they're operating correctly. Because they do, I've seen it firsthand, they do save lives whenever it comes to a fire in your house. I mentioned the CO detectors. I have CO detectors in my house as well. I highly recommend those as well. I have one in the basement near my equipment room that's a plug-in model, and it has a battery backup on it. And it basically shows what the parts per million in the air is in that particular area. And as long as it says 0, I'm good. And I also have one upstairs in the hallway leading back to my bedroom. So that's just a little bit of peace of mind that I have. Obviously, in the wintertime, your furnaces are running. They're gas operated typically. If they're not operating correctly, then they can create a CO leak in your house. And can create issues for you and your family. One other thing that has come up lately too is the idea of closing your doors whenever you go to bed. The reason for that, and there are videos out there and pictures out there, and I've seen it firsthand as well, of doors that are shut in a fire scene. You basically open that door and it looks like no fire had touched it, no smoke had touched it. That provides you a safe space in case fire breaks out in your house while you're sleeping. Like I said, I've seen it firsthand that it's amazing the difference between where the fire was at and the open space versus the shut door to a bedroom or something like that. If you do decide that shutting your door at night is a benefit to you all, I probably would recommend putting a smoke detector in your bedroom as well, because obviously a lot of homes have bathrooms that are just off of the bedroom. There are things like curling irons. Sometimes people use space heaters, things like that. So, if a fire breaks out in that space, then you want to have something that's going to wake you up from that as well. Those are just some suggestions, ideas. I'm not saying that everybody's going to like that idea, but it's something to consider. And if you're interested in seeing what happens whenever you do shut your door, there are videos online you can Google that will show you what I'm talking about. Another thing this time of year, a lot of people are using space heaters to try to keep their house warm. Obviously, my house gets cold. We have a space heater. But if you do use a space heater, try to keep anything away from it in a safe distance. If you have clothes or things like that you put too close to a space heater, obviously they're going to eventually ignite because they're going to get hot enough to ignite. Also, if you use a space heater, I recommend plugging it directly into an outlet. not using extension cords or surge protectors or anything like that. Just to try to keep you all safe, because they will overload. It pulls a lot of electricity, and they can cause issues. What else? Those are typically the main things that I typically address at these types of meetings. The fire activity in this particular area, we typically, it's been a pretty average winter so far. We've probably been on, in this area in the last month, 4 fires, and the area is very large. So just in my particular calling district, there's been about 4 fires in the last month. House fires, or there was a building fire that was the hotel down there on 47th Street, just off of 135, that was a while back. So I just ask that you all be safe, use your common sense, and by all means, if you need any of our assistance, we're always available 24/7. That's our job. We're very good at our job. So use 911 when you need it, and we'll be there. Obviously, we make medical calls and fire calls. If somebody calls 911, we're there. So, anybody have any questions for me?
Are the trains ever a challenge for your station?
Oh yeah, yeah. We have a running joke at our station that if a fire comes out on the east side of the railroad tracks, it's probably burning. But if there's no train and we get a fire call on the east side of the railroad tracks, it's probably not. So yeah, trains are real steady coming across here. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just recently moved into a house. I had my annual inspection yesterday, but I didn't realize it's upstairs, downstairs. Both bedrooms are downstairs, and then the kitchen and dining and living room areas up in the front. But the smoke detector is down, like in the hallway downstairs. So I asked about, did I need another one, like upstairs by, around the kitchen? And he said no. And so to me, I'm thinking like if we're down in the basement and the smoke detector go off down there, I'm thinking by then upstairs will be on fire. And that's the only door we can get out is up through the front room, up the stairs right there. And so I just wanted to know your opinion on that.
I would recommend at least one smoke detector on each floor.
Each floor?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would say that it's probably wise to have a mode of egress out of that basement area where you didn't have to go up those stairs.
That's the only way out is bedrooms and up the stairs, and the front door is right there, and that's the only door right there. The other door upstairs is by the kitchen, and so, like I said, I just kind of figured if something catch on fire, then the smoke detector go off, and that's our only way out, and even if just the smoke, will probably get us, but okay, I'm gonna let him know, because I said something to him yesterday, and he said no, but I think it should be.
Yeah, it definitely should be at least one on each floor.
Okay.
That's what I would recommend. At a minimum.
Especially by the kitchen.
Right.
You don't want to put it too close to the kitchen though, because then while you're cooking, it'll set it off.
You probably don't burn too much stuff.
Every time I open
Yeah,
the
it's
door,
a place like that, in the hallway, where you put it like around, like up by the kitchen, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
No, that's a good point, because
Yeah, you're
I
right.
have a smoke detector that's in the hallway, and inevitably, it doesn't matter how well I'm cooking that day,
Mm-hmm.
it goes
Yeah.
off.
Yes.
And the dogs go nuts.
Ooh, you ain't my dog go nuts.
You gotta get that towel out real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you guys, you still do blood pressures every now and then after you take
if you walk in, we'll give you a blood pressure check. We used to have a REACH program. That went by the wayside. It's been probably 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not sure why it went away. But you walk into our station, we'll be more than happy to help you any way we can. Any other questions?
I have just one more. Do you kids that's bad and they, like, you know, trying to scare them and stuff. Do y'all fire department have a scare straight for fire?
Our Scared Straight is our investigation department. We have investigators that if there's a individual, a juvenile or whatnot that may have been covers fire and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
then they can be contacted and I'm sure they would go out and interview the child
Okay.
and try to educate them on ramifications for what their actions are.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
The city participates in Wildfire, right? Do you know that for that?
And what?
I believe it's called Wildfire. It's the program that when kids do get called starting fires, you have to go on the weekend. There's this thing that is fire safety. I know County Fire does it with, I don't know if there's EMS, and there's just a whole, I think City Fire participates in that too. But the kid has to have gotten caught starting a fire, and then that's the consequence. Instead of doing this, you can do this. So,
I'd have to click on that. I'm not familiar with it. I know that we have programs that are available for youth that are interested in the fire service. So where they meet weekly to train and become familiar with what we do. As far as what you're mentioning, I haven't heard anything about that, but I'm also not down in the fire prevention.
my other question was, on the city, do you guys still do the correct way to put your the car seats in cars? Do you guys still do that?
No. Well, we don't personally do it. I know at one time they had people that were trained in installing go down to Station 1 on a set time frame, and they were able to use Station 1 to install those. Apparently there's extensive training
Right.
to be able to install car sheets. So we refer.
That's
Sorry, that's no joke.
I can't do it.
Right.
So we typically refer them to, I think it's the Highway Patrol Office that would do that, and I believe at one time St. Francis, I think, had training people.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they discourage us because of liability issues from installing car seats at fire stations. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
You guys have a good day. Be safe.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
There are some new faces, so for those of you who don't know, I'm Brandon Johnson. I'm the council member for District 1. And today we are at Linwood, so one of the things I wanted to start doing last year was move our breakfast around the district so we could get more participation from other areas of our district. So today, we're at Linwood, thanks to Lisa, and I want to invite her up to kind of talk about what she does here at Linwood.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to Linwood Recreation Center. I'm the recreation director here at this location. I've been here for about 8 years. So we're excited to have you all here this morning, and thank you for attending. We do a lot of different recreation programming, a lot of programming in general out of this facility, as well as our park. So we have a wide range of classes that we offer for all different age levels, from tots up to youth, adults and seniors. We have fitness classes, which you would consider like what your traditional recreational classes are. But we also have a lot of community education classes that we offer as well. For instance, one of the partnership programs that we have, are getting ready to have a class going on right now, is with Home Depot. So we've got a Home Depot workshop that's getting ready to happen this morning. It's a partnership program. They provide the instructors to us at no cost, and then they come in and they obviously have a specialized niche that they can serve, and they're doing an interior trim basics class this morning. So it's $8, so it's real cost friendly for program participants, but that's just one example. We also do rentals out of our facility. Obviously we do meetings such as this. special events. We hosted Run Wichita's annual Super Bowl Fun Run the first Sunday in February on Super Bowl Sunday in our park. It's a 4-mile run through our park, and they had about 225 participants that attended in that run. So that's an example of a fun activity that we do in our park. So we have a fitness center. It's very cost friendly for people to join and use. It's only $15 a month. If you'd like to add a family member, you can add a family member for $5 a month. So, and if anyone would like a tour of that facility after this meeting, feel free to stop by our office and we'd be happy to take you back there. So, a lot of amenities in our park, as well as our center. We've got a swimming pool, we've got playground equipment, we've got ball diamonds that get rented and used for athletics, we've got a football field, tennis courts, and outdoor basketball courts. So there's a lot that goes on here in this recreation center as well as in our park. So.
Can you mention your other partners in the building?
Other
Other
partners?
partners in the building?
Sure, yes, we have 2 other agencies in the building. Thank you, Camila. The Linwood Library, which we've got a lot of fun programming that they do out of there as well. It's a separate agency, but it is definitely well used within this community. And then the Linwood Senior Center. So that is an agency that is a partner of ours as well. And they do obviously a lot of senior programming. So they've got a lot of fun activities that they do for seniors that are also very cost friendly. So yes, ma'am.
We had a meeting here one time. It's been a couple of months ago, but end of October. And you hosted No Ties to Sedgwick County. That was our initial meeting, and this is a great facility to have that. It's a little hard to find.
Yeah.
That's the only issue.
Right.
But, what kind of fees? Someone else paid for that. I know it's not free to have space.
Right.
So-
Right. If there is a rental fee for groups that are using a facility, it kind of is driven by, the cost per room is driven by how many people you have. So this room can be reserved as a separate room. It can be partitioned off, and then you can rent the big room, obviously, as well. So for a 4-hour rental, which is our minimum time frame for rentals, it's $140. That's the rental fee. For the larger room, it's $220. There's also a $100 refundable damage deposit that's required, but groups do get that back. If you are an organization that is a nonprofit organization, there is a 25% discount for nonprofit agencies. You just have to provide your 501c3 form. We do rentals on Saturdays and Sundays. Occasionally we do them on weeknights, but it's usually for smaller groups and it's on specific days, because on weeknights we do a lot of our programming, a lot of our classes are offered. Obviously you can hear over in the gym, we do have a couple classes that are going on. Today there are classes that go on Saturdays as well. A lot of rentals on Sundays. We've got a couple of church groups that rent the facility, and then we've also got, just your regular, family reunions and dinners and birthday parties.
And how much space does Linwood Park encompass? I think this park is way bigger than we think it is.
That's a good question.
4-mile run and walk, so.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So
but
you know what, it's on the website, we can look that up later. It's actually on their website, the square footage of every park is on
Yeah.
Wichita.
I don't know the actual square footage, but I'd be happy to find that out for you. It's a
I'm just
big
curious,
park.
'cause it seems like it's really big.
It
but
is. And there,
you don't see all of it.
that's right, that's exactly right. For those of you that aren't really familiar with the park, this area is South Linwood Park. Over on the other side of the bridge, on the other side of the school, Linwood Elementary School, there is a North Linwood Park. We do have an open shelter out there that people use for wedding receptions, outdoor events. It gets used quite a bit in the spring, summer, and early fall. It's a first come, first serve facility. If you want to guarantee your use of it, though, there is a rental fee. It's $65 for the day to be able to guarantee its use. But yeah, the actual square footage of the entire park, I don't really know that. I should probably know that, so I can certainly find that out for you. So
That should be interesting, I think.
yeah, it is a big park. So, did anybody else have any other questions on the recreation center or programs that we offer? I've got Our spring session of classes is getting ready to start. We've got our spring activity guide right back there on the information table. There's also a flyer on our fitness center that gives fees and program hours. And then on our upcoming summer camp, we've got our summer discovery program that will start this upcoming summer for kids ages 6 to 12. It's a 10-week program while kids are out of school for the summer, so it's a lot of fun for those guys. So. Thank you again for being here. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to come down to our office at the end of your meeting. So welcome to Linwood.
So I wanted to do something real quick. James Roseboro made a really good point at the WIN dinner that you all should know who's representing you on different boards. So if you are appointed to a board representing District 1, can you raise your hand? So around the room, you have folks who serve on the District Advisory Board, the Historical Preservation Board, and the Transit Board. So if you have questions, concerns, these are the folks representing you every day when they have a meeting about these different issues. So I wanted to highlight that, and when we have meetings in the future, I'll ask them to raise their hands, just so you know who's representing you, and you can talk to them if you have any questions or concerns. Okay?
Do you have any boards where you have open positions right now that you need someone to fill?
I do
In
not.
this room that would help.
I do not, but when I do, I will let you know. So we, the only positions that get reappointed every year is DAB. So everyone else either serves a 2, maybe a 4-year term. None of those are up yet. Next year we'll have some of those. And I always ask anyone who's serving if they want to continue. They've been doing a great job showing up at meetings and being vocal about the district. I'd be happy to reappoint them. If not, then always look for someone else. There's always folks interested in serving our district. So again, those are the folks representing you. If you are interested, always let me know. There's a form online you have to fill out. But I'll send you there and we can go from there. So we are gonna hear from the amazing Ann Fox and Habitat about some things going on in their section. They're getting that set up. So until that gets going, do you have any questions over anything you've heard this far? Any issues you may have heard about coming up that you'd like me to answer?
Brandon, I'm sorry, just to piggyback on what you said, can you tell me, because I'm on a board, but I don't know the other people, can you tell me the names and what board they're on? You said what board
So
represent?
Janice serves on the Historical Preservation
Okay,
Board.
that's
And then Wanda, James,
Dab.
on the DAB, and you serve on Transit.
Yeah. Okay. So, thanks. I thought it was Janice who was on historic, but I wanted to make sure before I go tagging somebody else. And
And I don't appoint them, but the president of WIN is here, Miss Janice Raddick, Janet Raddick.
yeah, she was here.
She had to make a phone call, but she'll step back in. So she's the president of WIN, and so anything neighborhood, there she is.
And now she's like, what?
We just announced who you were.
Newly elected president of WIN. Somebody has a hand up about something.
So when you said the other people on the transit, did you say transit
So
board?
Trish serves on the transit board.
Okay, what does that mean, like transportation, what is
Our
transit?
transit system, that's the advisory board, that
Bus,
talks about routes,
parking.
ideas, new partnerships they've done. They work with our transit director on all of that.
Okay, bus system and all that.
So right now, they're working on improving service to the core of Wichita.
I'm ready.
Turn the floor over to Miss Ann Fox.
We were gonna have a movie, but technical difficulties, it would be too hard to hear. So if you want to hear a movie about Habitat for Humanity, we'll make sure you know how to get a hold of me, and I'll be happy to show you movies all day. So I'm gonna start by saying, how many in this room care about having good neighborhoods?
Yes.
All right, great. Then you might care about some of the things I have to say. Habitat for Humanity has been active in the Sedgwick County for 32 years. So I'm going to test your knowledge about us a little bit. How many homes do you think we've given away in our 32-year history in Sedgwick County?
0.
Oh, I have a right answer right from the start. That's a trick question. Habitat for Humanity is well recognized. We're active around the world. But there are many myths about our organization, and the biggest myth is that we give homes away. We do not. We build homes using volunteer participation and the participation of the families who are going to buy the home, and then we sell the home, and here's the magic part, for a 0% interest mortgage over a 20-year mortgage period.
Yeah.
Now, how is that possible? Who might know that? How can we offer a 0% interest mortgage?
You go through the city.
Annuity. Donors.
Donors. We actually use
Your
very
own
little.
lending.
We receive no city money. Well, we receive a little city money to offset the when the value of the home we build, when it costs more to build than it will appraise because of where we build it, then the city will provide us some money to cover the gap so that we're not losing. But we rely on donations from corporations and individuals for the majority of our program funding. And because that funding comes to us with no interest, we pass that along to the buyer with no interest, and then the home payments are actually made to Habitat as well. So the mortgage payments are made into our organization, and you can buy a 3-bedroom, slab-on-grade, highly energy-efficient home built this year for around $76,000, which equates to $250 a month for 20 years. Good deal?
Wow.
Good
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
The payment is actually closer to $500 because of escrow, property tax and insurance, which we include in the payment and help the families to manage by accepting that money as well. And actually, Fidelity Bank in Wichita just recently accepted responsibility to service our mortgages for free, so our families can make their house payment at any Fidelity branch across the city. They used to have to come to our office between 8 and 5 Monday through Friday, which wasn't very convenient, and we couldn't make change, so that they didn't have accurate money, they couldn't make change. So Fidelity has given us a great service there. So interest-free mortgage, 20 years. Our biggest difficulty is finding families to serve. Does that surprise anyone?
Yes.
It surprised the be everything out of me. When I first came to the organization, I thought we'd have lines and lines and lines of people waiting, but we don't. And I think the big part is we expect a lot of the persons who participate. So we serve a particular income category, and the first thing I'm going to pass to you is the brochure that tells how you can qualify to be a Habitat homeowner. And I'm going to ask every one of you, if possible, to pass one of these to someone who you think might need affordable housing. Because affordable housing is our real mission, to provide housing that low income but hardworking people can afford. Does anybody know the fair market rent for a 3-bedroom apartment in Wichita, Kansas? Fair market rent, 3-bedroom apartment in Wichita, Kansas.
$800.
Monthly.
$800.
What's a fair price?
$800.
$850. I have an $850. Give me another number.
Depends on the neighborhood, but $800. $900.
$650. Depends on the neighborhood. Doesn't count when I say fair market rent because what it's okay to charge. Okay, so that's a standard that landlords are given. So I had an $850. I had a $650. 3-bedroom. $750. It's higher. $1,200 is a fair market rent for a 3-bedroom in Sedgwick County. Now, you can find apartments that cost less, but what are going to be the conditions of the neighborhood? What are going to be the amenities around the neighborhood? And what we find out most of all, if you pay a lower amount for rent, you often pay a much higher amount for utilities because they're not well insulated, they're not tight, they're older, etc. So, and then I'm going to ask you, what is affordable for housing? What would you say is affordable? If you were training your children how much to spend on rent or a house when they go to buy it, what percent of your income? What percent of your income?
1/4.
A quarter, so 25?
Quarters better.
30? Okay, 30% is the measure we use, but we include the cost of utilities in it. So when we design a home plan and build it, we want to know that that monthly payment is going, including tax, insurance, and utilities, will be no more than 30% of the family's income. So in the little brochure, I'm going to borrow yours if I can. The 3 things that qualify somebody to be a Habitat homeowner are number one, that they do need better housing. So if they have a nice little house in Derby and they would just like a summer home in downtown, they won't qualify. And we do go to their home to see the quality of the place where they live. The need for housing can also be based on how many people live in the home. So a lot of our families are simply overqualified. You know that you don't count as homeless if you are doubled up with your parents, grandparents, etc. That's not considered homeless. So homeless counts don't include, but there are many families who live with a family member or a neighbor in order to have a safe place. Mm-hmm.
So I have a friend who has a kiddo, has a very, very small house, and it's a very old house that's sort of fallen apart.
Right.
And she also does foster care.
Right.
So would she potentially qualify?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Potentially qualified. Substandard would be that the utility rates are high compared to the size of the home, or we look at structural issues in the home, and we also look at the size. So if more than 1.5 people per room. So if you have 5 people living in a 1 bedroom, for example, and it happens more often than you think. And then affordability. So some people truly can't find something. There are, I believe, 12,000 people in our county who pay more than 50% of their income for housing. And if you take your own, monthly income and look at, wow, if I spent half of my income just for a place to live, how in the world do you afford transportation, clothing, food? And then we wonder why people are dependent on supports. So what we really find is when families pay the appropriate amount of their income for housing, their lives change dramatically. We just had a family with 5 children. They spent $1,700 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment for 7 people, and they now spend $500 a month for their 4-bedroom home. And they were working 3 jobs. Mom would work nights, Dad worked day and night. You can't sustain that and keep track of your children too. And now they're back to 1.5 jobs. They don't have to pay so much for childcare, etc. It really right-sized, and Mom and Dad are both going back to school because now they can afford to go to school. They can afford one decent vehicle to make sure they're always able to get to work, and then the other takes the bus. So these are important things that really dramatically change an impact on a family.
Yeah.
What makes a safe neighborhood?
Neighbors who care.
Okay, neighbors who care. What else makes a safe neighborhood?
Care of the property.
Pardon me?
Care of the property.
Taking care of the property. Okay, great.
Do you have
I
a banner for me?
I live on one road, and that one road has only 6 properties, and this year 3 were vacant for various reasons. Old lady died, family moved out of town, family got a different job, and we had 3 thefts. Out of the remaining 3 properties, there were 3 thefts because there's 3 vacants. So vacant properties adjacent to your occupied properties really have an impact on theft and property-related crimes. We've been working in the habitat. The other 2 qualifications to be a habitat homeowner, so need for housing. The second is ability to pay. So people have to have a job so that they can make the payments. And the income ranges on there are effective for 2018. We haven't gotten the new income ranges. The government changes those every year to give a sense of the area median income. They're based on that, and so they may adjust. So don't let anyone you give this to discount themselves because they're a little bit above or below those rates, which are adjusted for family size, because that will have new numbers in a few weeks, usually by the end of March. Okay.
Social Security count and stable income?
Yes. Any kind of income counts, but we do a 3-year look ahead. So if you have a 16-year-old son and you're receiving child support and he's not going to get it, or you're not going to get it when he turns 18, then we wouldn't count that income in determining your eligibility because we want to make sure you continue to make the payments. But unearned income like Social Security disability can be used if it's clear that it will continue. We look at your debt to income ratio, and so that's a good question. When we income qualify, we look at your credit score, but we don't disqualify you based on it. And we want to make sure that you have less than 41% debt to income ratio. We teach you what that is, And we will consider student loans, but they don't carry as much of a burden. Medical loans and student loans aren't weighted as heavily as retail or open accounts, you know, your credit cards, etc. So,
You said you don't discount for credit scores, so is there a minimum you're looking at?
no, there is no minimum. Now, this is what we look at. The third criteria, and this is where people decide they don't want to do this, is your willingness to partner with Habitat for Humanity. So the families who participate have to commit to doing 40 hours of education. We do classroom education on budgeting, financial management, and working on your credit score. Also, home maintenance, home insurance, and those topics then we believe prepare people to be good homeowners. On the credit score, what we do is get your credit score and then we take all its component parts. What causes you to have that credit score? And then we evaluate your ability to improve your credit score. You know you can get an improved credit score and the bank won't care for 7 years because they do a look back. But we're looking at how much progress do you make in making that score better. I improved my credit score by 60 points just by learning that every time you go to Target and they say, hey, you want our credit card for 10% off today, and you get that credit card, and then you do that at Dillard's, and then you do that at, you know, Gal, everybody has a credit card, right? And 10% off today, who wouldn't say yes? Well, you know what? That dings your credit score because all of a sudden you have more and more open accounts and more risk because you could, you know, charge those up. I had no idea. And do you know that your credit score impacts your insurance rates on almost everything nowadays? Yeah. It's incredibly important. So not counting it really helps families. A lot are declined by a bank for a loan, but we can help them.
Okay, so they may end up being in the program a little bit longer while you're...
Not necessarily. Usually it takes 8 to 18 months for somebody to get through the program. You can work for up to 24 months. The other part of the willingness to partner is sweat equity. So the families have to do single parent head of household, 250 hours of sweat equity, and for two adults in the household, 400 hours of sweat equity, building their own and other people's houses. And what that does is give them the skill and ability to maintain a house. So if I've been on the roof and I've hammered a shingle, then after a Kansas windstorm, when I see the shingle in the yard, I know what to do with it. Or I know how to get the gutter. And it also demonstrates for us if that individual is really capable of being a homeowner. Single mom, 5 children, working a modest income job like nurse aide or restaurant hostess or a laborer, a concrete flat worker. They work so hard all day. If they come home and absolutely can't get their butt off the couch to mow the grass, well, they're not going to make a good homeowner. So you have to be able to see, can these folks do the extra work, and do you have the energy it takes and the mechanical aptitude to do this?
Are you planning to stay for the whole breakfast?
I can. So if you have additional questions about becoming a homeowner, I'll let you know that. Then I'm going to tell you where we're working right now. This is our current focus area. This is upside down. Murdoch, where the city is improving Ninth Street, which is an incredible help to any area where we're working that has good streets around it. This is Grove. That's Spade Elementary. That's Save-A-Lot Grocery Store. That is Dollar General. This is 13th, which was improved by the city not too long ago, and this is Hillside. There are 604 residential properties in that area. 5 years ago this month, we started work on our first home in this area. Of the 604 residential lots, 108 were vacant at that time, and vacant is green. So you can see the amount of green right now. The pinkish color is rental properties, and dark blue are homeowner occupied. When we started in this area, we have now built homes on 6 blocks. And we believe that a neighborhood is everybody you can see from your front doorstep. So A. Price Woodard neighborhood is where this is located. That's a lot bigger than 1 block. But really, my neighbors are the people I can see from my step. So we're looking 1 block at a time. We call this our Rock the Block initiative. 1 block at a time, we're doing what we can to improve the neighborhood. And on the 6 blocks that we've done the majority of our work, which are the 1200 block of Poplar, 1200 block of Estelle, 1200 block of Green, and then 1100 Green, 1000, and 1200 of Poplar. So Poplar's the street we've done the most work on. We've actually touched 3 blocks. This is the 1200 block of Poplar, and I'll let you pass this one around in 2011 and in 2019.
Oh my gosh.
So just pass that around. Vacant lot is dumping ground in downtown Wichita, right? That's the biggest impact that our neighbors have said we've had. Nobody dumps on our street anymore. It's so wonderful. We don't wake up to tires and mattresses. Oh my goodness. That comes from chasing dump trucks down the street. I've been there and I've done that. And if your trash is on a lot in this area, I will post your address. I will find it in the trash. I will post it on Facebook and ask you if you want me to return the trash or deliver it. The 1200, the 1200 block of Poplar, when we started, had a 15% owner occupied, and it's now 65% owner occupied on that block. We have 4 blocks that have gone to at least 60% owner occupied, and 60% owner occupied, 40% rental is considered a good balance for a stable neighborhood. So that's our goal. Where can we do that? We recently received a grant which is allowing us to buy 15 more properties in this area, and we believe when we get those 15 more lots purchased, we'll probably have bought about everything that's buildable in the neighborhood.
So do you tear down existing homes?
We have occasionally, we have once, but we really count on the city to manage that aspect. So that's another way where the city partners. We have on occasion, but it's very expensive to tear down a lot, a property because of asbestos abatement, lead paint, etc. And the funding it takes. It's about $15,000 to tear down a house in this kind of neighborhood. I'm going to pass out my time. I have used up all my time. One of the things everybody wants to know is, what do these people look like? And so I'm passing around, these are the last 2 years of families who've purchased Habitat homes. Race and ethnicity, religion are really the same as our cross-section of Wichita. It's amazing how it works out that way. So just pass those. That's the faces of our homeowners. They are great people. They are not terrorists. They are American citizens. And they work hard to get that. And then this is an impact sheet. The impact that our houses have had in this neighborhood. Just the biggest highlight, if you think people don't care about District 1, we've had $2.9 million invested by private individuals and companies to make this happen. 38 homes built and 2 more by the end of this month. Yes?
So it sounds like a lot of these are young families that are moving in, and so is there any penalty for early payoff or any of those things?
No penalty for early payoff. Miss Gwen, 64. This couple, late 40s. Francois is 39. I guess they're young to me, right? And we've had several couples that are purchasing their first home in their 60s. But you know, people, you can live till you're 100 now, right?
Well, these are sometimes young families, and once they get to a financial stability and able to budget and do a lot better in here, sometimes they would pay extra on their mortgage.
They can, but we encourage them not to because it's 0% interest. So it's much better if they use that money for savings, for the next emergency, the next car they have to buy. Why pay it off if there's no interest?
Well, the only point I look at this thing is that they're young, so if they move in and 8 years down the road, they've got to move. Different state, different city and stuff. How does that work with selling the house?
They have a mortgage, so it's just like if you bought a house somewhere else, then you figure out how to sell it.
They can either refinance it or do that.
They can sell it to someone else. Our loans are not assumable because of that sweat equity that's involved. Right. We want them to, they have to pay it back so that we're respecting our donors' desire to have it go to a family. Okay.
Thanks for sticking around.
All right. I will stick around. Thanks for letting me talk to you all.
All right. We will move on to our awesome panel. So with us today, we have our neighborhood inspection administrator, Kaylin, if you raise your hand. We have our housing supervisor, Harvey. We have a neighborhood inspector, John.
John.
And our code enforcement liaison, Susan. So, just wanted to introduce all of them. They'll be happy to answer any of your questions. And John, I just wanted you to kind of kick off. What is the process of getting started when someone comes to Atwater or calls you and they have some issue? What's the process of that?
Well, generally, if somebody has a complaint, with zoning, premise conditions, or housing, they'll. All right, sorry about that. If, generally speaking, somebody will have a complaint about housing, premise conditions, or zoning, they'll go ahead and contact our office, or they'll call, like Julie out at the Atwater Center, because I work up the north end of District 1. We have 7 inspectors that work all over District 1, so their different rec centers are gonna answer to that. Can you hear me now?
No.
Is this better? Okay. Anyway, well, they'll go ahead and contact us. We'll get the complaint. We go and do the follow-up. We'll go to the property wherever the problem appears to be. We'll check it out, confirm it. Get a hold of the owner or the occupant, depending on who's responsible for taking care of the violation. We send them a letter to make it formal. We give them a certain amount of time to fix it. High priority things or life safety issues, they have a very short turnaround time. Other issues like repairing a roof may take up to 2 months before we have to kick it to the next level. The next level would be going to court, or we would abate a nuisance. That means that we have a property that's covered with junk and trash. We go ahead and we just send a crew out and clean it up and bill the owner. The other part would be to go to court, which could take a bit of time. Justice is kind of a slow process. After court, if it's still not taken care of, then we go ahead and abate it, and that should take care of it, except for housing issues, which we don't abate, unless we're going to tear the house down. And that's about how the process works.
To be real specific, if there's like trash in a yard, or a person doesn't have trash service, that's one of the biggest costs we get, largest volume costs.
Okay, if they have no trash service, I'll go out there, make contact with the occupants and the owner by letter and in person if I can with the occupants, especially since they're generally responsible for having trash service. I'll give them maybe a week at that. If they haven't got, because it just takes a phone call. Generally, we're going to give them 3 days to get trash service. Make the phone call, get the service started, and then after that, they go to court.
What about when they're parking in the grass?
That's one where I'll go out and make contact with the occupant of the property and give them a written notice, not send them a letter. I'll give it to them, and then we start writing tickets almost immediately. Usually we give them 24 hours, and if they don't get it done, they start getting tickets.
Do you still work in coordination with the police department to do that kind of thing?
Yeah, I have a community officer that uses me occasionally, and if I need something, say I get a complaint about a dead car in the street, which is not my jurisdiction since I deal with just private property, then they go out and they'll go ahead and sticker it and then tow it at the appropriate time.
So John, your area up there, so there's a lot of renters, landlords, and stuff of nature as well. So you do get a lot of tenants move out, leave stuff in the yard, landlords remodeling in the yard, and stuff of nature in here. So how do you handle them, John? How fast does that happen?
Well, I handle them the same way as we do the other ones. If it's out on the right of way, I mean, I want that picked up right away. I generally give them a very short turnaround. It's just not supposed to be out there. A week at the most. That way they can get with their trash hauler, get that stuff hauled off. I take a lot of landlords to court, and that's a slow process. So that, and a lot of other properties, I just go and abate if I can.
The reason I say, 'cause I see a lot of landlords when they're going through a remodel or tenants just moved out, they set it out in the yard, by the curb, by the fence, everything else. It's there for months while they're doing this remodeling. What do we do to, just to expedite that process?
Well, that's where we go. We need to abate the property, especially since nowadays it's really easy to own a property as an LLC, and they can be an out-of-state entity that I can't even get into court. That's just not going to happen. So we just go ahead and abate the property, and we'll try to get that done as quick as we
Can
can.
you define abate?
Abatement just means we're gonna clean up the nuisance. We'll remove the nuisance. And then we, for the cost of it, we bill the owner. We put a special on the property taxes.
So hold on, we have 3 hands, I'm gonna try to watch the order, Ms. Shirley?
I wanted to ask Ben, he was talking about tearing down some of the properties and that, and he was talking about the asbestos and all that cost. Is the city looking at some money available to be able to do that?
We have money budgeted for tear down of properties that are really bad. And this is where we have some issue with the courts. I'm generally supposed to take the owner to court first. And I just had one this Thursday where the owner is losing the battle against a house that should have been torn down. The case, in this particular case, was started in 2001. That's how long, what happens is they sell the property, I have to start the process over, due process in court, they sell it again. And this house has just been changing hands since 2001, and I'm hoping this is the last time. Thursday, the owner didn't show up, so there's a bench warrant for them.
Let me ask one more. If that is the case, then do we need to give less time for it to fix up? Or make sure it's some kind of way to find, because I know we have a lot of owners, like you said, they're out of town, so they're hard to get a hold to, and different kind of things. So what other things has been put in place besides the environmental court?
Well, the condemnation process, and I can let Kaylin address that, but generally there's a condemnation board that has to hold hearings. I mean, there's a due process that way, because what we are doing is taking somebody's their property without like a court hearing. And so I'm gonna let Kaylin answer that.
I'll move it to the center.
Hi, I'm Kaylin, and I'm the Neighborhood Inspection Administrator. Many of you might have known Deb Legg. She retired in December, and I got the privilege of training with her for a couple of months and then assuming her responsibilities. I'm still learning, but one of the things that I do directly work with is the condemnation process. And what I could tell you is a couple of things about that. It's a long process. It's usually an option of last resort for us, unless there's been a fire or natural disaster that destabilizes something to the point that it's dangerous and needs to be immediately taken down. Okay, so all condemnations are not created equally. There's emergency condemnations, and then there's what we would call a regular condemnation. We do have some money available to do that. Not only is it a long process, it is expensive to do, especially when you go through the regular condemnation. There are many layers of approval. Councilmember Johnson will speak to that he sees those come before the council on a consent agenda format first, and then later as a regular item. We give the owners of the property, I would think, every opportunity to take care of that on their own. Now, could we use more money to do that? Absolutely. Some of the money that we use to do condemnations is through grant funding, and some of it is not. It depends on the area of town. So all of those factors are taken into account. It takes a while for a property to get to the point that we're going to condemn it and tear it down. Okay? Does that kind of answer your question?
Kind of, but, okay, what do we need to do as residents to push the powers that be to make sure that money is available to do that? And then what is the budget, and is there any numbers on the different districts or whatever as to what's being done?
Those are great questions. There are areas of town, obviously, that are more concentrated need. I think that what Habitat for Humanity showed is that you can have, 20 block areas that may have 100 vacant properties, or maybe, 50 that need to be vacant. So there are pockets in town. The money is not designated by district so much. The general money is not designated by district. Some of the grant money is. So We wish we could move a little faster on condemnations, but again, it is a lengthy process. Now, I will say this, if there are buildings like that in your areas that are unsecured, you see that they're not being at least secured so that homeless folks and animals are not getting in there, that they don't become a dumping ground, we can secure. We can absolutely do that. Harlan Bascom oversees that program. We have an in-house crew that will do board ups, and then we also can contract larger jobs that we're just simply not able to do with the staff and equipment that we have. So we can at least make sure that they're secure.
I've been working over 4 years, and I think everybody in this room will admit that this is a problem. Have a car on the street, call the police, because the police do the street, that's in-off, expired tag, flat tire, whatever. They go, put a tag on it. All they do is musical chairs with the cars. They move it into the driveway. Then it takes you guys 30 to 60 days. I've talked with Mr. Labrum and the chief of police, and for over 4 years, about this problem. We need to stop the musical chairs. As soon as they move that, you guys need to get on it right away, make it a priority one. Can we, do I need to get with the city manager and the county manager to get this rectified? These
You
two
can
aren't
certainly
getting it
talk
done.
to whomever you want to, but it's probably not gonna change the process. If a car is parked in their driveway, we don't, and it's legally tagged and operable, our hands are tied on what we can do. Now, if the police tows it out of the street, that's the best option, is when we have an inoperable in the street, we can tow it. So, I don't think I understand your question.
I have a comment. He mixed by saying the car was not inoperable or not tagged properly.
Okay.
And we want you to know, you don't have to decide whether you call the police or MABCD. If you call me or Julie, we make that determination through the questions we ask you. We'll ask you what color it is. We'll ask you if you know the tag. We'll ask you if the window is broken. If you know the person's in the military or have a family in the hospital. If you know your block, then we're gonna have that conversation with you. You don't have to decide that. When you call me and Julie, we're gonna take care of that for you, whether it's in District 1 or not.
Thank you.
Mr. Thompson?
Well, that was sort of along the same line that I was looking at. How do you handle these habitual violators that is like a revolving door, like this gentleman was just speaking of? Because I have a gentleman in my neighborhood that lived there since 1980. And this one gentleman is just constantly just, just like a revolving door. And nothing has never been done about it. And we keep, referring it to you guys or the police department. When it's on the street, we call the police department. When it's up in his driveway and blocking the sidewalk, we call you guys. And he still doesn't. He's been doing this probably for 15 years.
Have I sent an email for you before?
No.
So, I'm gonna throw me out there again.
No.
So emails have paper trails. And so if you allow me or Julie to send the email for you, or you email me or Julie, then we have a paper trail. And that paper trail helps, sometimes your community police officer goes to training for 10 weeks. What if his out of office email is not set? So I just want you to know different ripple effects, and a paper trail is very important. So again, let's get together on that specific property, and I'll get it to your neighborhood inspector, because they're not here today, and your community police officer. Because the cat and mouse game is truly happening.
It does.
Yeah, we need to know where this is.
John, can you explain our interdepartment meeting real quick? Because this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, we have a monthly meeting at Atwater, at least our group does. And we meet with fire and the police and all the inspectors for that area that we can muster. And then we just kind of compare notes, and this is where we sort of hash out these issues of the musical chairs, because I've had it out with the police before, where we talked about, we've got to get this cycle stopped where they're going back and forth. And I think I've seen a big improvement up in my end with my police officers. So we haven't towed very many cars, but I've taken tons of people to court.
And you definitely have one, Mr. Thompson is the Neighborhood Association president, you definitely have a man who used to own a car lot. See, I know the address, so if I talk to you, we might be looking at the same address. But we know that this man used to own a car lot, so he brings a few cars here and there, and it might be the same address, but let's talk offline.
So, I have, like I said, in the past, for code violation on housing and blocking sidewalks and things like that, I usually go directly to my neighborhood inspector. When it's cars and inoperable vehicles that's on the street, I will go directly to my community policing officer. So what you're telling me now that you want all of that stuff, no matter where, to go through you?
It doesn't have to come through me. I suggest you CC me and do it by email. So if you email the community police officer and if you email your neighborhood inspector and you CC me, if we all see the same address, maybe your neighbor to the north or south of you is reporting it, and I'm CC'd on it, then we get to compare the addresses that we are all receiving. I don't have to have them all individually. Keep your individual relationship with them, but if you're not emailing them, email is the tracking route that we all can say. Because even the inspector can say, hey, I reported this 30 days ago, so therefore it's in environmental court's part, potentially.
And one issue you're gonna have that might be directly what you're talking about is you're taking them to court and then they, been found guilty, they pay their fine, but they still haven't been made to resolve the issue. And we can't physically make someone do that. Now, if it's a nuisance case, like a front yard, trash in the yard and stuff, then we can, as John said earlier, do the abatement process where our contractor will go out, pick the stuff up, and we'll send a bill to the owner. But a lot of times it's a court issue that's going on, and the issue doesn't always get resolved. In courts, for housing issues, court is about our only option unless the house is bad enough to be condemned.
Okay, we have, first off, you guys have got a really challenging job. And I know that from experience, right, John? So, I know that you made the statement that, you've got a crew that can go in and do board ups. I think that maybe the clarification would be good that that's not a process that comes quickly or easily.
It kind of depends on the property.
Yeah. It
You know,
it
we
might
have,
not come quickly or easily.
we've had some vacant properties that are fenced in, and then we have to get a search warrant to actually send a crew in to take care of that. That takes a long time. If it's a vacant house and we have easy access to it, normally, and there's no other avenue like court, we can get a house boarded up pretty quick. I think probably
So just have to tear the fence
probably
down,
within
right?
2 weeks, something like that.
My car ran into that fence.
Well, we
And
need that
just
search
an
warrant to
FYI
get past the fence.
Just an FYI, just for you, they're now coming in with cordless drills and trying to get the boards off the house.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate you telling me that. I drive by there every day just to
Yeah.
see if the gate's
Yeah,
still up.
they're taking the bars off the windows that were remaining. And so I think the guys are taking the extra boards that you left and trying to board those off. But we're gonna have to drill out the screw heads so that they can't get them on.
Well, we've been using exotic, star bits and various things that are not something you can just get.
Okay, anyway, thank you. It's a hard job and personally, from our standpoint, we really appreciate everything you guys have done.
That one took far longer than I thought it would.
And just to let you know what type of resources we use, just this last week, these were buildings that we secured by our contractor. We spent $5,000, and that comes out of our condemnation budget.
Hey, I got an 18-year-old nuisance case, and it's still a nuisance case today. How do we handle that? I mean, how do we get you to expedite some kind of order to get them to do something on their house?
I would appreciate talking to you right after the meeting. I want to find out where this one is.
I just wanted to know when you said, fence house and non-fence house, a property, I mean, what, if you don't have a fence on your property and you do, I mean, it's going on your property, period?
Actually, this is
With a fence stopping you and not a fence stopping you, I don't understand that.
For years, it wasn't an issue with me, but our lawyers are telling us that we have to observe some, some constitutional issues about penetrating a fence where there's a presumption of privacy, even though there's nobody there and people are routinely vandalizing or even squatting in the property. We have to be very careful now about how we enter a property.
Unfenced property.
Yes.
There is a process. John, for example, will send a notice of violation out. It can be anywhere from 14 to 30 days, depending upon what his evaluation of the situation is. At that point, he can decide to either take it to court, which generally takes longer, or if it's easily accessible, he'll submit it for abatement. That's where I come in. I review his paperwork. Sometimes maybe I need to have him send an extra notice, depending on, once again, circumstances. And if everything's kosher, we go ahead and start the abatement process. Now, we send certified mail out for all of our notice of violations. Now, if they receive it, they've signed for it, we don't have to take another step. We just gotta bid it out and send our contractor. However, if they haven't received it, then we have to attempt another notification. The way we do that is we post the property that we're publishing our abatement notice in the Wichita Eagle, and then we publish it there. That's a 10-day process. If they still don't respond, or at least start making the correction, then we will go ahead and bid it out to our contractor, and our contractor will go out and abate the property.
Mr. Barnes? Okay, so John, it sounds like you guys have you're understaffed, and I know that, and you everywhere. You know, so it's just, but understaffed is just bogs down the problem. And we call you, I call you, somebody else call you, and you can only go so many places in an 8-hour day, one week, and then the process of all the filing and stuff. So I guess, to me in here, that broken process, and then adding even Camille and them to them, even though that helps to kind of funnel it down a little bit, it still eventually has to come to you, and then your discussion and what you do about it. So it seems to me that something needs to be incorporated between you guys in here and maybe the homeowners associations or the DAB board in here, where you have some kind of standardized process where those neighborhood associations and boards and stuff in here, that they have a way of collecting the data. You know, if you got some problems and issues are going on in here, they can collect this data here, and whether we electronically file it, so that gives you more information. You need more feet on the ground to be able to collect this information and funnel it to you in here, because you can't track and backtrack.
Actually, we're already doing that. Hazel Corliss and Merlin Overton and Mr. Roseberry, they all provide me with lists of properties that are, you know, kind of important to them and the association.
But I always talk about actual data to show that when you go to court in here, you know, you can't take Roseboro's phone call in there or this list of this nature in here, but you need some data to say that, and it's a standardized process of tracking so that all neighborhoods are tracking it and recording the same information, giving it to you so you can compile data. So when you go to court, you actually got data instead of this thing to take it along with it.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
Is there still a website that shows if a property has an open case?
Yes.
Yes, it is. I don't know exactly how one person has to find it, because my portal is a little different than the public side. But I know that there is a web page where you can go and see if it's open or not.
Yeah, there is, but, and I'm sorry to interrupt, I've used it pretty extensively, but I've also found that sometimes you have to follow up a phone call, because like if the case is open on the website, or even 2 or 3 cases on the same property, then like, what do you mean it's closed? And so you call up, and then they're like, oh yeah, well no, it's open over here. So I mean, sometimes what's on the website isn't as accurate as the people on the ground, but maybe that's an issue, I don't know.
It may not give a fuller picture. I don't know if it shows anything.
The other issues when you talk about using the portal on the computer is a lot of times people are afraid to leave contact information. Sometimes the information they leave us isn't adequate to go out and deal with the problem. For example, just last week I had a nuisance light complaint. I need to know who to talk to, because if we're going to deal with that particular one, they're the ones that are going to have to sign the complaint. But the person left me no number, no name, and not even an address. She just said, it's behind my house, and I have no idea where her house is at.
But that's for training with your DAB board and your neighborhood association, and a standardized form for reporting and information that you're requiring and needing is there. And training your neighborhood associations and board members so that they all know to do the same thing, the same way.
Well, I think a lot of people are afraid to go on the record because they think they're going to be discovered. The way I do my cases, all the investigation materials they're not available to the public through even an open records request, so.
It doesn't need to be. I'm just saying, you need to have a way that you can collect that data, whether we funnel it through neighborhood associations or dad boards, but everyone should do it the same way, same information, so that you can compile it and be able to use that in your court thing.
I think that's a great suggestion to give Ms. Raddick and Wynn, since they kind of look at neighborhood associations around the city. And maybe you and Ms. Raddick can get with our inspectors and kind of work that out. Great idea. Ms. LaWanda?
Question, sometimes I know when you do your inspections, people get, roofs and things like that. Is there any consideration for people that just don't have the funds to make all those repairs?
I know I've been sitting here silent this whole time because I am not the enforcement piece. I do social work within MABCD. The city had recognized that we were giving code violations to individuals who really wanted to resolve them, but they either did not have the financial resources to do so, or maybe they had health issues. A lot of times the calls we get, the person calling doesn't really know the situation of that particular family. And that's where you can kind of maybe help too. When you call in, there are people that need the tough love that John would give by doing the citations and taking them to court. There are people, though, that need a softer touch, that really just need some help. In my program, I am familiar with all the various grants that are available out there for home repairs. I can help them determine eligibility for, because there are some that are dependent on property taxes being current. There are some that are dependent on age or part of town, whether you're in District 1 or 3 or wherever you may live. I have all the applications. When people struggle to fill out that paperwork, I sit down with them and I help them through that process. I'm also in environmental court 3 afternoons a week, and I'm there to advocate for those clients that are doing everything they can, those citizens that are trying so hard to get help, and maybe they're just not quite there yet. They're still on a waiting list for a grant or whatever the case may be. I'm there to advocate for them. I'm also there to get more referrals. A lot of my referrals come from the inspectors themselves. They do try, if they do get to know some of the residents that they're working with, and they see that there's a problem with this. We don't want to take a little 98-year-old woman to court if we just need to get some volunteers out there to clean up her yard. I mean, let's not do that. In the 3 years I've been with the program, I have built up my volunteer groups to almost 100. I have almost 100 volunteer groups. I think I'm at 97 groups that I use to help. They do primarily the nuisance violations, but I have a couple churches who have more skill set where they can go in. I had one church that did a siding project. They did a window well. They've done some, a little bit bigger projects. There are special district funds that we can use for different types of things. And so last year, I do work in all of Sedgwick County, primarily just in Wichita, but I do have a few county projects. But last year I worked with 591 families, a program with me. So there is a need. There's definitely a need. And I have access. He was talking about the trash service. I do have a group of churches that sometimes can provide financial resources to get that trash service started. That's, of course, their churches. It's dependent on their benevolence funds. Sometimes they don't have funds available. Sometimes they do. That's one resource. I have free dump vouchers that I can usually get through environmental health, specifically for my program where residents can take a load of trash to one of our transfer stations and dump for free. I have unlimited access to the dumpsters, the large skid dumpsters. It is limited. There's usually a wait list for those, but I can provide those for free. I can send recyclers out. Sometimes it's a matter of just, they have old appliances, whatever. They will haul those things away for free. So there are resources, there are several grants, there are a lot of things that we can do to help. And I always say that a lot of code violations can probably be resolved without pulling out the big guns. They can be calling me and saying, okay, we just need to get this person a dump voucher, they can take their stuff to the dump, and we're done.
Who are you?
Phone and email.
I'm sorry, what? Suzanne, and I've got, okay, I've got a resource guide that shows you all the various home improvement programs we have in the area. But you can also call me you can call the numbers individually, or you can call me. I have information on all these programs. There are a few things that aren't on here because they're like a once a year kind of thing. One plug I do want to give right now, though, is Wichita Work Camp. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They come out every summer in the first week of June, and they do house painting. They usually have 300 to 500 kids and great adult supervision, and they paint a lot of houses in the area. They are taking referrals. They do not want houses that are more than 1.5 stories high because they're kids. They don't want them up real high. But if you know someone who needs a house painted, or you need that, and they do not have the financial resources to do so, get a hold of me. I can make a referral.
And
Okay?
I'd like to share with you that Suzanne is not a hidden resource. She's been at all of our resource centers and in our District 1 newsletter for the 3 years that she's been here. This flyer is in the lobby at Atwater Neighborhood Resource Center, and we have used her. You may not have known, but the homeowner does, because it's a private situation with people's pride sometimes. So that's why she may be a surprise to you, but she's not a surprise to District 1.
There you are.
Are there any questions? Yes.
Yes, I have a friend that qualified for your free paint for the inside of her house. Well, you know, we went Tuesday out to where you picked the paint up, but I didn't get to go in because, I mean, she kind of came out so fast, and I was like, what's going on? But she was like, I guess people that gives the hazardous people like maybe a half of a bucket, and then somebody gives this, and then the way she was saying, like they dump all the extra paint together and give it to those people. Is that how that works?
That would be at the hazardous waste
Yeah, the
facility.
hazardous waste,
And
yeah.
that is paint that people have brought there that they no longer need. They do mix it together sometimes. The quality sometimes is amazing, and sometimes it's not gonna be. It's kind of a hit and miss, you know, but it's either low cost or sometimes free there.
Yes.
And just anybody in Sedgwick County can go and access that resource. It's over off of Seneca on Stillwell.
Yeah,
That's what you're talking about,
she
yeah.
went to, but I think
Yeah.
she was
Now, there
thinking it was
is
like
a
little
free
paint.
paint grant available to the
That's
city of
what she
Wichita,
signed. Well, that's what
Housing
she-
and Community Service.
yeah,
It's
that's
on
what
that
she signed
resource
up
guide,
for.
yeah.
That's what she signed up for, the grant, and she got the.
Then
So
that
she's
wouldn't have
thinking
been,
it was new paint.
that wouldn't have been at hazardous waste facility. They would have had to pick that up like at Sherwin-Williams or somewhere like that.
Where she needs to go, but she did get qualified for the grant to get the paint.
Okay.
And that's where she went to, so.
On
yes, I
that
need to know.
resource guide going around, look at the City of Wichita Housing and Community Services. That would be the number she'd call if she qualified for the free paint grant. They're the ones who administer that program. And City, which I think it's the second one maybe on there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Service Improvement Home, that's who she.
Yeah, she needs to talk to them.
I don't know why she went to that place, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I'll let her know.
Yes, ma'am.
Question, looking at some of these new things that have been put into place, and, you know, and my question is always, what is a good budget that we as community and people need to look at the money? How much do you need? It's always about we don't have enough money. What do we need to do to make sure there's enough money? And to also the education of people, because sometimes when people get used to that, then they're not gonna do anything. They're just waiting just for the city or whoever to do it, and then they get kinda like lax, okay, I can just do it, and then they'll come through and fix it. It's kinda like the neighborhood association, I mean, not the association, the neighborhood cleanups. And so they have gotten used to that, so all they do is pile the trash or whatever, and
stole the microphone from Suzanne. One of the privileges I get is to try to make sure that those budget dollars are advocated for and available when we need them. So to answer your question about budgeting, it's always good to stay in contact with your district advisory boards, your community liaisons, and your council member, because that's where those budget numbers are set. Now, what I would say is that in no means is our department unique in that we have less money to work with now than we did, say, 10 years ago. That's just a fact of life. And so it's not a great answer, but they're trying to take finite resources and divide them in a way that will do the most good. Different folks have different viewpoints on what that is. But I would say talk with your council members, because ultimately that's where those budgets are set, and county commissioners as well in some instances for us, because some of us have county funding as well. Because we're MABCD, Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department, is a joint department. I don't know if you guys knew that, but we are exclusively city employees, but our department as a whole is combined. Now, a word about education. We had a great discussion about this not too long ago. We do have what's called a neighbor-to-neighbor program. We would be very happy to come to your neighborhood associations and do that. We've done it in the past with varying levels of success. It depends on the associations and how involved they are and what they want to see. But we can come and talk to you about, what do you watch for as a neighbor? How do you report that? What is the best way? What are the options to resolve that? I think you've seen from hearing just from our department as a whole today that we have a helpful arm, we have an enforcement arm, we have an abatement arm, we can tear things down, we can work with the police on parking issues that don't get resolved because people have figured out how to work the system. Now my guess is that the properties and things that frustrate you the most are the same ones that frustrate us. So, but it may be that you have issues that are unresolved that we just flat haven't heard of and don't know about. I mean, you heard from Camila, do we know about that? Have we heard about that? And we certainly do not want to feed the perception that we're not going to do anything. We will, but sometimes it just takes a lot longer than you would like or we would like to get that done. Okay? It does. I know, 18 years and 24 months and those things. We get it. We understand. Hopefully those are fringe properties, though. Hopefully that is not the norm, and that the processes and procedures that we have in place will work more quickly on most things. Now, I'm new. Like I said, I'm the newest one, but I would defer to my staff to say, did I miss anything on that?
No, I think you're pretty comprehensive. Usually I have a big enough mouth that everyone can hear me, but the department has changed over the years. Talking about Suzanne, I remember when I was an inspector doing the same thing that John does. I'd take someone to court, and when we got them to court, there wasn't really anything they could do. All we could do is take them to court. That was the only tool we had. We didn't have the abatement with our department. It was with another department. But we didn't have the abatement process. We didn't have someone that will advocate and find volunteers. She has been God sent to us, because she has been able to resolve issues that we as inspectors used to be frustrated and upset about. I had one case where the guy had lost his leg, and we went with the police to serve the UCC, the Uniform Criminal Complaint, and I felt real bad when I found out that he was an amputee and really couldn't do anything. But now when we have that scenario, we've got Suzanne to try to work some of those issues out. The abatement program used to be, if it was behind a fence that was locked, no trespassing signs, there were a variety of things that kept us from abating a property. All we could do is take them to court, and that was our strongest arm. Now we have the abatement process and the administrative search warrant abatement. If it's a property that we can't assess, which is what John was referring to earlier, then we can get with our legal staff and go over to district court and get a judge to order the job to be done. Now, it's a lengthy process, but at least we have an avenue now that we didn't have before. There were some properties we simply just couldn't do anything about. So some processes have gotten better. I think our inspection staff, the field staff, the office staff, I think you'll find that to the single person, that they're all dedicated and passionate about what they do.
Yep.
All right, we've got time for one more question.
Here you go. Just a little more suggestion, Chief. Here again, I think you're missing an excellent opportunity to do that partnership and collaborating in here. Suzanne, you do an excellent job trying to take care of people who need it here, and you building up the volunteer list and stuff of nature in here. But that's a funnel, that's a bottleneck when it gets down to you. It's just you, and Wichita is huge. So when I say this WIN board, they meet once a month, and they are a collection of neighborhood associations in here. And so you probably need to start attending their meetings and having a conversation with them. But here again, they can help you by collecting some of this information and standardizing so that you're not having a bunch of post-it notes and stuff of notes in here, so that helps you can compile it, and then you can kind of sort through some of those. And as well, some of the things and resources that you have, you can share with them so that they themselves, see you trying to contact some of these volunteer places, can also reach out as a neighborhood association. And I'm gonna tell you, there's the Ministerial League over there, you got about 110 churches that belong to that Ministerial League, and businesses that reside in a lot of these neighborhoods. Some of these donate funds, and some of them volunteer services and stuff of nature in here. Well, these neighborhoods, you should be pressing them to reach out to those churches and those things, because they're in those neighborhoods to help fund some of your things.
I think that's great. That's a
So
great idea.
I think you guys should definitely be attending each other's meeting and discussing these
So I think
proposals.
if you have more suggestions, let's follow up with them after this. I did say a question. Who has a question?
I got a question.
Lori?
You. Who took over for Karen Hamlin?
So it depends on the area, and the District 1 newsletter has all the new inspectors in it, so the brochure, so it's back here on the table, and every District 1 inspector is listed in their work cell phone. It is Karen Hamlin had, so there's Karen Roberts and, tell me the intersection.
I can answer that question.
Yeah, what's the intersection?
It's Ryan Morrell, Morrells.
And so he has a Cedric County, and some people are still emailing their Wichita.gov. Then can you forward it to me, because he's in Atwater Resource Center? And some, I'm just gonna tell you, sometimes that dot, are you using Ryan dot?
I don't remember, I just pulled it over the phone.
Okay, so let's clarify we have the right one. I can look at my phone right now and let you know.
And Lori, if you ever have an issue, good or bad, with the inspector on the east side, which is where I'm the supervisor at, give me a call and we'll work it out.
Here, I'll give it to you.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here this morning.
Yeah, I want extras.
All right, wrapping up today, got a few updates for you. I'll try to get through those, but this is a battle every month.
We
Get through the updates.
I've noticed a big
So,
difference. You notice the difference in dumping?
first,
And also
who all,
personal.
did you all hear about the workshop on Tuesday? We were talking about Century Two.
What's her name?
See some yeses, some no's. So on Tuesday, the mayor's Century Two committee recommended that a new facility be built. They did not recommend to tear down Century Two. So I want to clarify that. There was a recommendation that Wichita needed a new facility for performing arts, but not to tear down Century Two. So that's something that you all have to consider and then let us know whether it's repurposing. But know that if it is repurposed, there's going to have to be millions of dollars invested in that. But again, that was the recommendation that we heard Tuesday, new facility, which I agree with for a lot of reasons that, I don't know if you all have heard about the restrictions of Century Two when it comes to the performing arts and some of the shows. The fact that the version of Lion King that we saw was not the full-out version with all of the technology and stuff, because our facility just can't host something like that. They recommended that that facility be built in that same footprint, so either closer to the river or somewhere closer to Main Street. That's up for whatever the vision comes through from that. So that was a recommendation that was made Tuesday. Also Tuesday, we talked about fireworks again. So we got all the reports from 2018 to what I've heard from you all, and that we've heard from other folks, is that leading up to the 4th, there were less fireworks. But of course, on the 4th, folks just kind of did what they wanted to. As you may remember, we did write, I believe it was 133 citations on that. We had teams at all 22 fire stations around, so it was one police officer, one firefighter. And those of you who came to the DAB meeting, if not, it is on our Wichita District 1 page, that report. There were some safety concerns for the enforcement teams. There were folks who tried to assault some of the firefighters being out there trying to enforce this, and there was a video shown of that. So we're looking at how do we make those teams more safe. We're looking at how do they target that more to some of the higher call areas, and then were there any changes that we were looking at for this year. So that conversation is ongoing. Again, in the workshop, we just get information. Baseball-wise, the first dugout has been poured. So construction started immediately. There was the groundbreaking, and that same day they were starting work, probably within 30 minutes. So the first dugout has been poured already. Tuesday, we're going to look at some more of the agreements that we have to vote on. There's a lot of technicalities in that and things that we want to make sure that Wichita gets the best deal out of this. So that's coming up Tuesday at the council meeting. That's at 9 o'clock downtown. We had our Taking Action on Violence Youth Cipher. That was great. The young people led that. There was free food there. There was a lot of pizza. We had so much pizza that some people left with 2 and 3 boxes of pizza. So that was good, but the conversation was great. And again, being led by young people, we talked about law enforcement, community relationships, and young people, how they felt about seeing law enforcement in uniforms at events, and suggesting that maybe they just have on a polo that maybe had in a stitched badge and not just the actual uniform, because there are young people that are afraid of the uniform from experiences or things that they've seen. So this is an opportunity to build those relationships. Kudos to our department. I think we had 12 or 13 officers there, one at every table, talking about these issues. Neighborhood officers up to Captain Moore. I mean, everyone was there at this meeting, so it was great to see that. All that data will get put out again, and this is an ongoing conversation. Again, we're having it once a quarter. We want to keep it going. We don't want to just be reactive to the high number of homicides and violence we saw. We want to be preventative on that and proactive. So that's going on. Again, WSU Tech, there's still money left in the District 1 and District 3 Wichita Promise Scholarship. Those who may know someone underemployed or unemployed, there's an opportunity right now if you live in District 1 or District 3 to go get a scholarship at WSU Tech of $1,500. It costs $2,500 for tuition. 15 of that can get paid from this. Again, if you know someone making $8, $9, $10 an hour, this is a great opportunity to get training in 6 weeks and be working at one of our bigger companies in Wichita, whether it's Spirit or Textron or anyone down that supply chain. You can go from not having a whole lot of money to making some good money, and it's a life-changing opportunity. And we've already, and there's information in the back on that, we've already seen more than 100 people take advantage. And we have posted on the Wichita District 1 page a link to the site of testimonials. On that site, you'll see someone as young as, I believe he was 22, and a lady who was, I believe she was in her late 50s, and just looked for a job change. She wanted a different career, more money, and this was an opportunity to do that. So you see all of these folks' lives changing from this opportunity. So the funds are still there. And the private sector is putting in money for that too, but specifically for District 1 and 3. If you know someone, WSU Tech is a great opportunity to go work at one of those companies. And lastly, our neighborhood grants, we still have money. So neighborhood associations, individuals, you have to meet an income guideline, but you can apply for sidewalk repair, dead tree removal, special projects, or some deed work. So if you've inherited a house and you don't have the funds to go get all the legal paperwork to prove it's yours, this grant is there for you. And again, working with our inspectors, we've had people who've received letters that, in Wichita, you're responsible for the sidewalk in front of you. So sidewalks have been condemned and they didn't have enough money to fix it. Here's this grant. And oftentimes, we would go out door to door. When I say we, more like Camila and our inspectors, they have that information too, but hey, this is condemned, it's gonna cost you $700, but here's an application for a grant, they can get that paid for you. So, as much as we wanna bring our neighborhoods up, we also wanna help. This is a great opportunity to do so. You can find this online, back there, or come to Atwater and you can get one. The great thing about coming to Atwater to get one is somebody will call you back and see if you're done with that. If you do it online, we don't know if you downloaded it, so you probably won't get a call. But up there, at least we know that something's up, you need some help, and somebody will give you a call back. This is the first time since I've been in office that I got through all my updates without question. Well, no, I mean getting through them all without stopping to take questions. First time. It's a great day, George.
Could Suzanne go up there and explain to everybody that if you can't afford to have your sidewalk fixed, she can find money for low-income people, and if you can afford to pay for them, you should pay for them until I get that ordinance changed, which I've been trying to for 5 years.
So the reason that it hasn't changed is because part of that is state law, or state law would have to change. So, elections matter. Next year, every house in the legislature is up, so talk to your representatives and senators, and if that's something you care about, making noise always helps. So when we talked about funding, inspectors in that department, that's something that's irritated me since I started, because I think the department's underfunded. And when we see what just one extra staff person can do to help out, it's amazing. But again, that's a county and city deal. So if it's something you care about, there are 6 council members and a mayor. There's 5 county commissioners. Shoot emails, talk to us all. Again, when an issue was made important, as we saw the lack of police officers, what happened? We began to move towards funding that, hiring more officers. So if this is important to you, it's important to me because our neighborhoods are important, then let us know. And it's not just sending me an email, because 1, I support that already, but 2, when you send it to all of us, we all get it. And we all read that same email. So again, make sure you talk to everyone, because I'm 1 vote, we need at least 4, talk to everybody. Any other questions? Surprised I'm not getting much on Century 2 right now. Wow, this is amazing.
Here's the email for everybody.
So on the screen is how you can contact, Camila's pulling up how you can contact all of us with the click of a button. And if you go to the website, I used to give out this one email that does go to all of us, but if you go to the website, you get not only all the council members, you get the city manager, and you get Janet Johnson and Megan Lovely, so you get staff too, so everyone gets that. That's probably the best way.
So it's right down here, need to contact elected officials. On the bottom of wichita.gov is one link, and that gets to everyone as he described.
They said what area they're thinking about building in around the Century 2 there, are they looking at the middle library?
No, so the recommendation was just, we need a new facility and it needs to be right there. And the rest of that is gonna be on the public. I know the private sector is looking at paying for some of that as well. So they're probably gonna look at, is Riverfront best, or Main Street best, or is tearing it down best? I mean, but again, the recommendation was just a new facility, not to tear down Century 2.
What about like extension onto Century 2? Facility, I don't, you know.
So if you extend on it, then you would be looking at, but if you extend on it, then you would have to look at renovation. So then now you have to decide. Right, so renovation was not what they recommended.
Okay, because the cost of renovating and the cost of building a new one, I mean, is.
The cost of renovation was
cheaper to build.
was cheaper to build.
It was cheaper to build. Yes, ma'am.
That makes sense.
What was the decision to do with the old library?
There was no decision on the old library. What you saw in the paper was a conversation that the mayors had with a few folks. It's not official. There's no conversation from the rest of us on that right now. It was a conversation he was having with a few organizations. I knew about it, but at this point, we have to know what the costs look like for moving those 3 groups in. There's significant costs that we should do as a city if we did that, and you're looking at probably at least 12 to 15 million on just roof repair. And then when you look at the majority of that facility was not open to the public, so you'd have to knock out walls and stuff. There's a lot to that. So at this offering free hotspot connections for 2 weeks at a time. You can come to Atwater to check that out. You can take those hotspots home. It works for you. It is encrypted, so the whole block can't use it, but you can. It began February 7th, and again, at 2 weeks, it's cut off. So if you try to keep it, it won't work. And IT will cut it off, and you just need to bring it back in. It's not, nothing says you can't check it back out, but you need to bring it in after 2 weeks just in case someone else wants an opportunity.
And the next set of hotspots scheduled to return back to Atwater is March 8th, and that's for Colvin Neighborhood Resource Center also has some. Each site has 20 of these free Wi-Fi hotspots. And a couple testimonies, we've had a family member use it whose kids didn't have internet. I had one man take it home and say, I never got it to work, and he held it for 2 weeks. I'm like, why didn't you call us? And so things of that nature, that's the total opposite extremes, right? So I couldn't get it to work. I'm like, we gave you 3 numbers to call. So yeah, people have to bring photo ID, proof of address, and live in Wichita, Sedgwick County.
Where is the next one of these and when?
We'll be back at Atwater the first Saturday in April, which is so once a quarter we move it somewhere else. So our next location I think is Edgemore, and that'll be in June.
April 6th. It's the next district on breakfast at 9:30. RSVP if you like.
Yep, RSVP if you want food so we can get a head count. It's gonna be back at Atwater. No other questions?
You get a notice that says IT has blocked for all pornography. Yes, pornography is blocked. You can't, yes, pornography is blocked. Yes, ma'am. Can we officially end and then just do individual conversations? Are you okay with that?
All right, well, thank you all for coming to Linwood. Appreciate it. See you next month. We're out.
There's some coffee, there's a little bit more coffee if someone wants to fill us.
Besides Suzanne, who I see all the time, I am so.
I got a phone call from the church. Wanting to donate water.